The morning sun had barely climbed above the dusty hills of northern Arizona when Maria Thompson tightened the last knot on her son's worn-out sneakers. The little house they rented stood crooked at the edge of an empty highway, surrounded by silence and the stubborn whine of desert wind. Life had been harsh since her husband passed away in an accident 2 years earlier, leaving her with 2 kids, Ben, 10, and Lily, 6, and a mountain of unpaid bills that never stopped growing. That morning, Maria's mind was on breakfast and overdue rent. She loaded the old pickup with cardboard boxes for recycling, praying the day would somehow stretch enough to fill both her children's stomachs and the gas tank. But fate had something entirely different waiting for her that day. As she turned onto the main road, she saw a strange shape sprawled by the roadside, a man, motionless, half covered in dust. For a heartbeat, she thought it was another unfortunate drifter who hadn't survived the cold desert night. But then Ben shouted, "Mom! He's moving!" Maria slammed the brakes. Her heart pounded as she stepped out, clutching her phone just in case. The man's face was weather-beaten, his long hair matted with sand and blood. His chest rose weakly. Every breath sounded like a battle. Around his neck hung a small leather pouch etched with tribal symbols. She knelt beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" The man's cracked lips barely moved. "Water." Maria glanced toward her truck, then back at him. Helping a stranger could mean danger, but leaving him here to die. Her conscience screamed no. She ran back, grabbed the kid's water bottle, and lifted his head gently. He drank in desperate gulps until his trembling stopped. "Ben," she whispered, "help me get him into the truck bed. We'll take him home." "Mom, what if he's dangerous?" Ben's eyes were wide. "If we don't help, he'll die," she said, voice shaking but firm. It took all their strength to load him in. As the truck rumbled back toward their small house, Maria kept glancing through the rear window. Who was he? His clothes weren't ordinary. Faded military pants, a torn leather vest, moccasin boots that looked handmade. When they reached home, she cleared the worn couch and laid him down. His skin burned with fever. She found her old first aid kit and began cleaning the gashes on his arms while whispering, "You're safe now, whoever you are." Hours later, as the sun bled into the horizon, the man stirred awake. His eyes opened, deep, dark, and sharp, like he'd seen 1,000 storms. "Where am I?" he rasped. "You're at my home. I found you by the road," Maria said softly. He tried to sit up, but pain forced him back. "You shouldn't have brought me. Bad men, they'll come." Ben, peeking from behind the curtain, whispered, "Mom, what's he talking about?" Maria placed a hand on the stranger's shoulder. "Rest. No one's coming here." The man's gaze flicked toward the window. "Name's Talon Greyhawk, Apache." Maria froze. The name sounded like something out of an old legend, an Apache warrior's name. "Greyhawk," she repeated quietly. "I'm Maria. These are my kids. You're safe here." He closed his eyes again, whispering something in his native tongue before drifting into sleep. That night, as crickets sang outside, Maria sat by his side. She could have called the police, but something inside told her not to. There was a dignity in his face, even broken by pain, a man who had carried too many battles alone. When dawn arrived, Maria heard footsteps outside. At first, she thought it was the wind. Then, a car engine stopped near her gate. 2 men stepped out, dressed in black jackets, scanning the yard. One of them kicked over a trash can. "Looking for someone," Maria called nervously. The taller man turned toward her. "Lady, we lost a friend on the road. Big guy, dark hair, maybe injured. Seen anyone like that?" Her stomach twisted. She lied, "No, sorry. Just me and the kids here." The men exchanged looks. "If you see him," the tall one said, "call this number. He's not who you think." They drove off, tires spitting gravel. Inside, Talon was already awake. "They came," he muttered, ice cold. "They're not my people. They hunt me." Maria whispered, "Who are they?" He looked down at his bandaged arm. Men who sell land that isn't theirs. They wanted me quiet. She didn't understand it all, but one thing was clear, this man was in danger. For days after the men came looking for him, fear lingered like a shadow in Maria's small home. Every creak of the floorboards made her jump. Every passing truck made her heart race. Yet through it all, Talon Greyhawk slowly healed. The Apache warrior, once silent and suspicious, began to open up, especially around little Lily. She'd sit by his bed every morning, offering him her crayons and whispering, "You can draw if you want. It makes pain go away." He would smile faintly, and sometimes sketch little mountain shapes on old papers she found. By the end of the week, Talon could walk again. He helped chop firewood behind the house, his movements strong but careful. Watching him, Maria felt a strange peace she hadn't felt in years. Like her home, so often filled with worry, had found a protector. One evening, as the sun dipped into the horizon, painting the desert gold, Maria brought him a plate of stew. "You should rest," she said. He looked at her, eyes calm but heavy. "You risked your life for me, Maria. I owe you more than I can ever repay." "You don't owe me anything," she replied softly. "We just did what anyone should do." Talon's jaw tightened. "No, not everyone does what's right. Not anymore." Then his gaze shifted toward the hills. "Those men, they work for a corporation stealing Apache burial land. They tried to silence me when I refused to sign false documents. I thought if I ran far enough, I could disappear. But they don't stop." Maria felt a chill. "You mean they might come here?" He nodded slowly. "If they think I'm alive, yes." That night, Maria barely slept. She sat by her kid's room, listening to their breathing, wondering if she'd made a mistake bringing him home. But when she glanced at the couch where Talon slept, she saw something in his face, not danger, but deep sorrow. A man fighting not for revenge, but for justice. The next morning, while Maria was hanging laundry, she heard the rumble of tires again, the same black SUV from before, now crawling down her driveway. Panic flooded her chest. "Ben, take Lily inside," she shouted. The two men stepped out, the taller one smirking. "Didn't expect we'd meet again so soon, lady. We know he's here." Before Maria could speak, Talon stepped out from behind the shed, holding a wooden staff. "Leave this place," he said firmly. The men laughed. "What are you gonna do? You're already half dead." In a blur, Talon swung the staff, knocking one man to the ground. The other drew a gun, but Maria screamed, "No," and threw a rock that struck his hand. The gun fell, and in that split second, Talon tackled him to the dirt. The fight was brutal but brief. Within minutes, both men were on the ground, groaning. Talon stared at him, breathing hard, then said, "Tell your bosses, the land doesn't belong to them. It belongs to those who remember it." They scrambled back to the SUV and sped off into the desert dust. When the silence settled, Maria's knees gave way. "They could have killed you," she whispered. Talon turned toward her, blood trickling from a cut on his cheek. "Better me than your children." Days passed, and peace slowly returned. Talon repaired the old fence, fixed the leaking pipes, and even built a small wooden swing for Lily. The kids adored him. Ben once said, "Mom, he's like Dad, but stronger." Maria had to turn away before her tears fell. One afternoon, Talon packed his small leather pouch and said quietly, "It's time I go." Maria froze. "Go, but where?" He smiled faintly. "Back to my people, to finish what I started. I can't let them steal what's sacred. But I wanted to say, you saved me when the world turned its back. You gave me something I hadn't felt in years, family." Maria stepped closer, eyes glistening. "You gave us hope, Talon." He knelt beside the children, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "Ben, take care of your mother. You're the man of the house now. And Lily," he handed her a small carved wooden feather. "This will remind you, bravery isn't about fighting, it's about kindness." As he turned to leave, Maria whispered, "Be safe." He nodded. "The spirits walk with me. Weeks later, Maria received a letter. No address, no signature, just a folded paper with a newspaper clipping inside. The headline read, "Federal Court Protects Apache Sacred Land After Whistleblower Evidence Surfaces." Beneath it, a short note in careful handwriting. "Freedom belongs to those who protect others. Thank you for reminding me of that. T.G." Maria pressed the letter to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Her kids ran up asking why she was crying, and she smiled through it. Because sometimes, God sends angels in the most unexpected ways. Outside, the wind carried the faint sound of an eagle's cry. On the porch hung the little feather carving, swaying gently under the desert sun, a symbol of courage, compassion, and the invisible thread that connects every act of kindness. Under the burning Arizona sun, life moved slowly for Maria Thompson and her 2 children. The days blended into one another. Early mornings, small chores, the never-ending struggle to make ends meet. But after Talon Greyhawk left, the house never felt quite the same. His presence had lingered like a memory stitched into every wall. The children spoke of him often. Ben tried to be stronger, more responsible, while little Lily carried the wooden feather everywhere she went, as if afraid it might vanish. One evening, while Maria sat on the porch watching the sky turn orange, thunder rolled faintly across the hills. For a reason she couldn't explain, she whispered, "Are you out there, Talon?" The wind seemed to answer, warm and soft, carrying the scent of rain. The next morning, a vehicle pulled into the yard. 2 men in uniform stepped out, their boots crunching the gravel. One asked gently, "Mrs. Thompson?" When she nodded, he handed her an envelope. "This came from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It's for you, from a man named Talon Greyhawk." Her heart pounded as she opened it. Inside were a letter, a small photograph, and a silver pendant shaped like an eagle. The letter began with simple words. "Maria, Ben, and Lily. If you're reading this, my journey has ended. But don't let sorrow live where love once did." She read every line through tears. Talon had written that the fight for his people's land was over, that justice had been restored. He'd also made sure Maria would never struggle again. He had transferred part of his ancestral land to her name, telling the elders that she and her children were family. "You gave me back my faith in humanity," the letter continued. "When I was broken, you offered kindness without reason. Ben, protect those who cannot protect themselves. Lily, keep drawing mountains. And Maria, you gave a dying warrior a reason to live again. Now it's time for me to walk with the wind." Maria held the pendant against her heart and whispered his name. She couldn't stop the tears. The next week she and the children drove to San Carlos for the ceremony in Talon's honor. The desert stretched endlessly, glowing like fire. Elders stood in a circle, chanting softly as drums echoed across the valley. When it was time, children released feathers into the air, each one carrying a silent prayer. An old woman approached Maria, eyes filled with kindness. "You are the woman who sheltered Greyhawk," she said. "He spoke of you before he left. He said you reminded him that goodness still lives in this world." She placed a woven blanket around Maria's shoulders. "He walks with the wind now, but he will never leave you." Maria couldn't speak. She simply nodded and looked toward the sky. At that moment, an eagle appeared, gliding high above the cliffs. Everyone fell silent, watching as it circled once and vanished into the sun. Lily gasped, "Mom, it's him." Maria smiled through tears. "Yes, baby. He came to say goodbye." When they returned home, Maria hung the eagle pendant beside Lily's carved feather. The small house no longer felt poor, it felt sacred. The children played outside in the evening light, laughter echoing through the canyon. Maria stood at the doorway, breathing in the desert air, feeling the steady heartbeat of the land beneath her feet. She realized then what Talon had truly given them wasn't property or protection, it was belief. Belief that kindness still mattered, that compassion could reach across cultures, pain, and loss. They had saved a stranger's life, and in return he had saved theirs in ways words could never capture. As the wind rose again, Brushing her face, Maria whispered into the dusk, "Thank you, Talon. We won't forget." The feather swayed gently above her, as if answering. Somewhere far beyond the horizon, an eagle cried, and the sound rolled softly through the desert, carrying a message she would remember for the rest of her days. Love given freely never dies. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and don't forget to subscribe. Because somewhere out there, another story of courage and compassion is waiting to be told. Red Heart.